fought at the Battle of Milne Bay. You were awarded the Pacific Star of Defence. Tell me about the Battle of Milne Bay, considered to be the first in the Pacific campaign in which Allied troops decisively defeated Japanese land forces.
Well, we were all greenhorns, and most of them, there wasn't a lot of AIF blokes there, but the Japs landed early in the piece up the top, and the thing was, we were unprepared, and the Japs used to come in every night and shell us and put a searchlight on us, and we had nothing to fire back at them. And then of course the planes used to come over, and they used to bomb and strafe us and all that sort of thing. And then we were lucky. What happened was the Americans were there, a few Americans were engineers, and they were building a strip, that's an airport. And they'd started from the mountains and they'd cleared all the strip, and of course the Japs had pushed us all back to this strip. And when we all lined up on the other side, and we had right up to the foot of the mountains, and the Japs come across singing and going on, and we just mowed them down, and it was unreal. It was just a slaughter. And they got a shock, and we had nowhere else to go, so that was just the way it was. And we everyone fired, and everyone had a gun.
And what was your closest call during this battle?
Oh well, not so much that. It was on the ship. The ship came in, and there was no wharf, and it was anchored out about just off the beach, and we were out on there unloading it. In the army, you do all sorts of things, and I learnt that because when we went round to Rebel, the occupation of the Rebel, I said to myself, we're going to be putting up tents and everything. We volunteered to work on the ship, on the Menundra it was, a Menora, and we were able to get good food and all that. But anyhow, on the ship I was up we were unloading it on the side, and I was with an American Marine on the bridge on the gun, and the Menundra came in because we didn't have a hospital, we only had a casualty clearing station, and it was coming to take all the wounded and the malaria and all this out of the country, you see. And I said, look at the Menundra over there, all lit up like a showboat. And the next minute a searchlight came on the Menundra, and it just went up and down, and then it switched off, and then we just continued talking. And the next thing, the searchlight came on us, and we looked at it. I said, look, what? And next minute the shells start screaming, the old ship started to shatter. So we all jumped over the side.
You were being bombed?
Yeah, we were sunk by shells, yeah. We were shelled by a cruiser, Japanese cruiser, and we all jumped over the side, and we crawled up on the beach, and the ship had gone, it laid over on the side, and the searchlight was shining up the road. And that was my first ignition to a war. And
how old were you at the time?
I was 19.
Too young.
And then when we got ashore, the crew, a lot of the Chinese were there, and we formed a square around them because the bosun, he spoke English, and we told him not to let him talk because everyone was trigger happy because, you know, they think they were Japs if they were talking their language. Anyway, we get up to the corporate factory, and we was exhausted. We're laying there, and the searchlight came on again, and they started to shell us again. You could hear them screaming over. None of them had my name on it, luckily. So that was my first experience, and it was something that made me more or less take care for the rest of the 3 years that I spent up there, other than bombing.
Louis, why did you receive the Pacific Star of Defence?
Well, I got four. I got five medals. I got all together, and we got the Pacific Star for fighting in the Pacific, and there was the 1945 Star and 3 other medals or 4 other medals. But the one I got from Milne Bay was last August for 70 years of the defeat of the Japanese, and the first defeat of the Japanese in the war. And also when the President of America was here, he said there was three main battles. There was Midway, the Coral Sea, and you wouldn't know, Milne Bay, and it's been all American, and here we were getting a bit of a wrap-up for Milne Bay, and you never hear much, and we had a general, we used to call him Silent Cyril, and he wasn't after publicity or anything, and he was an old fella, and he knew what he was doing, and he knew that we had to keep the troops, some of the troops in reserve in case the Japs landed on the other side of us, you see. But anyhow, we were able to defeat them, and they come in and shell us in the night, and they evacuated their Japanese and took them off our shores. So we were lucky then. We just settled down. And, we didn't have any roads. We didn't have jeeps. We didn't have any four-wheel drives. Only the Americans, engineers, they're the only ones that had trucks, and we had no hospital. So I mean, it was a real ragtime show, and it was something you don't think about until now. You get a bit ancient, and you realise just how lucky we were, because Kokoda hadn't started. That was after Milne Bay, and that helped them and the rest of the Australians when we defeat the Japanese. It showed that they could be defeated.